8 years ago, I went through a tumultuous divorce that left my life in shambles. My daughter, Emily, cut all contact with me and sided entirely with her mother. She didn't even ask for my side of the story before making her decision, leaving me heartbroken and bewildered. Over time, I tried to rebuild my life, focusing on caring for my ailing mother, who had Alzheimer's, and burying myself in work to cope with the loneliness. Despite several attempts to reconnect with Emily, she made it clear that I was no longer welcome in her life. At one point, my ex-wife even threatened legal action if I continued to reach out. For nearly a decade, I grieved not just my broken marriage but the loss of a meaningful relationship with my only child. My social circle is small, and aside from my mother, who passed away recently, I've had no family to rely on. So when Emily unexpectedly contacted me a few months after my mother's death, I was overjoyed. My heart raced with hope, thinking she had finally realized the truth and wanted to reconcile. It all started with a call from an unknown number. At first, I didn't recognize the voice on the other end. It had been years since I'd last heard her speak. She introduced herself and I was floored. Emily explained she'd seen the news of her grandmother's passing on Facebook and wanted to check in on me. I felt a surge of emotions, joy, relief, and a sliver of skepticism. Still, I eagerly invited her to visit me, and she agreed to come over for dinner that weekend. When Saturday arrived, I was a nervous wreck. I spent hours preparing a meal I thought she'd enjoy and making sure the house was spotless. This was the first time Emily would see the small bungalow I had moved into after the divorce. It wasn't much, but it was home. When she finally walked through the door, I could hardly believe my eyes. She looked so grown up, so different from the teenager I last saw. But her presence stirred something deep within me, a mixture of hope and sadness. Emily's smile was hesitant, almost shy, as she stepped inside and glanced around. "Hi, Dad," she said softly, setting down her bag. I couldn't stop myself from hugging her. To my surprise, she didn't pull away. For the first time in years, it felt like a crack of light had pierced the darkness that had engulfed my life. We sat down for dinner, and the conversation started out light. She asked about my work and how I'd been doing. I told her about my mother's final years and the toll Alzheimer's had taken on both of us. Emily listened, her expression unreadable, but her silence spoke volumes. It felt like she was trying to piece together the years she had missed. Then came the moment I had been dreading. "Dad," she began, her voice wavering, "I've been thinking a lot about the past, and I want to talk about what happened." My heart sank. This was it, the conversation I had both hoped for and feared. I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "Of course, Emily. I've wanted to talk to you about it for so long." She hesitated before continuing. "Mom told me things that made me so angry at you. I was young and I didn't know any better. I believed her without question." I swallowed hard. "What kind of things?" Emily looked down at her plate, fiddling with her fork. "She said you left us because you didn't want a family anymore. That you were having an affair and just walked out on us." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd known my ex-wife had twisted the narrative, but hearing it confirmed was a different kind of pain. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Emily, none of that is true. I never wanted to leave you or the family. Your mother filed for divorce because she said she wasn't happy anymore. She pushed me out of your life, and I never cheated on her." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry." I reached across the table and took her hand. "It's not your fault. You were a kid and you trusted your mom. I can't blame you for that." For the first time, it felt like the walls between us were beginning to crumble. Emily opened up about her own struggles over the years, how she'd felt caught between loyalty to her mother and lingering questions about me. She admitted that some of the things her mother said didn't add up, and that's what had prompted her to reach out after all this time. As the evening unfolded, Emily and I talked for hours, delving into the painful history that had kept us apart for so long. She shared memories of feeling abandoned and confused, and I explained the countless nights I had spent agonizing over how to reach her without making things worse. "When you stopped responding to my letters and calls," I said, my voice cracking, "I thought I'd lost you forever. But I never gave up hope." Emily nodded, wiping her tears. "I didn't realize how much I needed to hear your side until now. Mom always painted this picture of you, but deep down, I wondered if there was more to the story." There was a long pause as we both processed the weight of everything we had shared. Then Emily broke the silence with a hesitant smile. "I guess I owe Aunt Laura an apology. She's been trying to get me to reach out to you for years." I chuckled, though the mention of my sister brought a lump to my throat. "Laura's always been the peacemaker. She believed you'd come back to me when you were ready." "I wasn't ready until now," Emily admitted. "But I'm glad I finally did. There's so much we've missed, and I don't want to lose any more time." Hearing those words was like a balm to my soul. For years I had clung to the hope that someday, Emily would give me another chance. Now that the moment was here, I wasn't going to let it slip away. "I want us to start fresh," I told her. "Whatever it takes, I'll do it. I just want to be part of your life again." Emily smiled through her tears. "I want that too, Dad." Over the next few weeks, Emily and I worked to rebuild our relationship. She started visiting more often, and I cherished every moment we spent together. We laughed, reminisced, and even tackled some of the awkwardness that came with reconnecting after so many years apart. One afternoon, as we walked through a park near my house, Emily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I've been thinking about everything we talked about that night. I'm not sure how to bring it up with Mom." I stopped walking and looked at her. "You don't have to rush into anything. This is about you and how you feel. Take your time." Emily nodded, though she still seemed conflicted. "I don't want to hurt her, but I also can't pretend everything she said was true. I need her to understand that what she did wasn't fair to either of us." It wasn't an easy conversation to have, but I admired Emily's courage and determination. She was willing to confront the lies that had kept us apart, even if it meant facing her mother's anger or denial. In the end, Emily decided to talk to her mother. She didn't share all the details with me, but I could tell it had been a difficult and emotional conversation. When she came to see me afterward, her eyes were red-rimmed, but there was a sense of relief in her expression. "She didn't take it well," Emily admitted, "but I feel better for finally telling her how I feel. I just hope she'll come around someday." I hugged her tightly, proud of the woman she had become. "Whatever happens, I'm here for you. Always." Rebuilding our bond took time, but it was worth every effort. Emily became a regular part of my life again, and for the first time in years I felt whole. May wasn't just a second chance for me. It was a reminder that love, no matter how strained or distant, could find its way back if we were willing to fight for it. For me, Emily's return was nothing short of a miracle, and every time she called me Dad, I was reminded of the power of forgiveness, understanding, and the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's decision to confront her mother started creating ripples within the family. While I had been content with the progress we were making in reconnecting, Emily felt the need to address the truth with other relatives who had been fed the same version of events her mother had crafted. One evening, over dinner at my house, Emily brought it up. "Dad, I think it's time I talked to Aunt Laura and Grandpa about everything. They deserve to know what happened." I nodded, though a part of me felt uneasy. "Emily, you've already been through so much. Are you sure you want to stir this up with everyone?" "I'm sure," she said firmly. "They were part of my life too, and I want them to know the truth. I want them to hear it from me, not from Mom." A few days later, Emily arranged to meet with Laura and my father. I stayed behind, respecting her wish to handle it on her own. When she returned that evening, her expression was a mix of relief and exhaustion. "How did it go?" I asked, bracing myself. Emily sank into the couch with a tired smile. "It went better than I expected. Aunt Laura was upset, not at me, but at Mom for keeping her in the dark all these years. Grandpa didn't say much, but I could tell he was processing everything. It was hard, but I think it was the right thing to do." I reached out and squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you, Emily. It takes courage to face things like this." As time went on, the family dynamics began to shift. Laura became more vocal in her support for both me and Emily, often visiting us and encouraging others to do the same. My father, though slower to react, started reaching out to me more frequently. It felt like a long overdue reconciliation was unfolding, not just between me and Emily, but within the family as a whole. However, Emily's relationship with her mother remained strained. While they still spoke occasionally, the conversations were tense and often ended in frustration. She's not ready to admit she was wrong, Emily confided in me one evening. And I don't think she ever will be. I nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Sometimes people can't face their mistakes, no matter how much we want them to. But that doesn't mean you've failed, Emily. You've done more than enough. Despite the unresolved tension with her mother, Emily seemed happier and lighter. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day, and I cherished every moment we spent together. For the first time in years, I felt like we were truly a family again. As the months passed, Emily's journey toward healing became more apparent. She threw herself into her work and hobbies, often inviting me to join her for photography outings or art shows. These shared experiences became our way of building a new foundation for our relationship. One weekend, while we were sorting through some old family photos at my house, Emily stumbled upon a picture of her as a toddler with her mother and me at the park. She held the photo up, staring at it with a wistful expression. "Do you remember this day?" she asked. I nodded, taking the photo from her hands. "Yeah, I remember. You insisted on feeding the ducks, even though you kept getting scared every time they came too close." Emily chuckled. "I must have been a handful." "You were," I admitted with a grin. "But you were also the most curious, fearless little girl. Always wanted to try new things, even if it scared you." Her smile faded slightly as she looked at me. "I don't know why she had to make everything so complicated, Dad. Why couldn't we have just been normal?" I sighed, setting the photo aside. "Emily, some people carry their own pain and insecurities, and they don't know how to let go of them. It's not an excuse for what happened, but it's the reality. Your mom loved you in her own way, even if she couldn't always show it the right way." Emily nodded, but her eyes were distant. "I just wish she could have been honest. That she could have admitted her mistakes instead of doubling down." "That's on her, not you," I said gently. "You've done everything you can to mend things. If she's not ready to meet you halfway, that's her loss." Emily reached over and gave me a quick hug. "Thanks, Dad, for everything." In the months that followed, Emily's relationship with her mother remained strained but civil. They spoke occasionally, but the deep bond they once shared seemed irreparably damaged. Despite this, Emily seemed to find peace in knowing she had done her part. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Emily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Dad, for so long I felt like I didn't have a family. But now I realize that family isn't just about who raised you or who shares your blood. It's about the people who show up for you, who love you unconditionally." I smiled, my heart swelling with pride. "You're absolutely right, Emily. And I hope you know that no matter what, I'll always be here for you." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know, Dad. I know." And in that moment I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the chance to reconnect with my daughter, for the love and resilience she had shown, and for the family we had rebuilt together. A few months later, Emily approached me with an idea. She wanted to start a photography exhibit showcasing her journey, capturing the beauty of resilience, forgiveness, and self-discovery. She had been working tirelessly on her portfolio, often pulling late nights editing photos and jotting down ideas. "Dad, what do you think of this one?" she asked one evening, holding up a print of a serene lake reflecting a golden sunset. "It's stunning," I said, genuinely impressed. "You've really outdone yourself, Emily." She beamed. "I've titled it Still Waters. It's about finding peace within yourself, no matter how turbulent things get around you." "That's beautiful," I said. "You've poured so much of yourself into this. I'm proud of you." The exhibit was set to open in a small local gallery. Emily invited close friends, colleagues, and even family members. To my surprise, she decided to extend an olive branch by inviting her mother as well. When I asked her why, she simply said, "Because this isn't just about me. It's about letting go of bitterness and moving forward." On the night of the exhibit, the gallery buzzed with energy. Emily had transformed the space with her photos, each accompanied by a brief reflection or story. Guests wandered from frame to frame, pausing to admire her work and read the heartfelt captions. When her mother arrived, there was an awkward tension in the air. Emily greeted her with a polite but guarded smile. "Thanks for coming, Mom." Her mother hesitated before replying, "You've done a wonderful job here, Emily. These photos, they're incredible." Emily nodded, and after a brief pause she said, I wanted you to see this because it's part of who I've become." Her mother's eyes welled up with tears. "I know I've made mistakes, Emily, more than I can count, but I'm proud of you. I really am." The words seemed genuine, but Emily didn't press further. She thanked her mother and moved on to greet other guests, leaving the door open for further healing, but only on her terms. That night, as we packed up after the exhibit, Emily turned to me with a smile that radiated pride and contentment. "This feels like closure, Dad. Like I can finally move forward." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride. "You've come a long way, Emily. And this is just the beginning." From that day on, Emily's exhibit became a traveling showcase, inspiring countless people with its message of resilience and forgiveness. Though her relationship with her mother remained distant, it no longer weighed her down. She had found her peace, and in doing so had shown me what it truly means to heal and grow. And as her father, I couldn't have been prouder. It wasn't just Emily who grew from that experience. Our entire family dynamic shifted. Watching her navigate such a complex situation with grace and determination taught me a lot about resilience and boundaries. Emily's journey gave me the courage to reflect on my own relationships, not just with her but with others in my life. Over time, Emily's success continued to blossom. Her photography became more than a creative outlet. It was her voice, her way of reaching people. She started getting invitations to speak at workshops and community events about her journey, using her photos as a medium to connect with others. One day she came to me with another surprise. "Dad, there's an organization that works with underprivileged youth interested in the arts. They asked me to mentor some of their students." "That's incredible," I said, genuinely thrilled. "You'd be amazing at that." Her eyes sparkled. "I've been thinking about how much I could have used something like this when I was younger. It's a chance to give back and help others find their path, like you helped me find mine." I felt a lump in my throat. "You're doing something truly meaningful, Emily. I'm so proud of the person you've become." She hugged me tightly, and I could feel the strength of her gratitude. "I wouldn't be here without you, Dad." As the months turned into years, our bond only deepened. Emily's relationship with her mother remained distant but civil. There were occasional polite exchanges during family gatherings or mutual events, but Emily never let herself be drawn back into old patterns. She had learned to protect her peace, and she guarded it fiercely. One day, as we were sorting through some old family photos, Emily stumbled upon a picture of her younger self, grinning widely with her camera slung around her neck. She showed it to me, laughing softly. I had no idea back then that this little girl would end up here. I looked at the picture, then back at her. She had everything she needed to succeed. She just didn't know it yet. Emily smiled, her eyes glistening. "Thanks for believing in me, Dad, even when I didn't believe in myself." "I always will," I said, my voice steady with conviction. "Always." In the end, Emily's journey wasn't just about mending a fractured family or finding professional success. It was about discovering who she truly was and learning that her worth wasn't tied to anyone else's approval. And through it all, she reminded me of the power of unconditional love and the importance of being there for the people who matter most. Emily's story wasn't just her own. It became a beacon of hope for everyone who had ever felt lost or underestimated. And as her father, it was an honor to stand by her side, watching her light up the world with her strength and compassion.